Recording in progress.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Wanted to welcome everyone to the Hayward City Council meeting. Today is Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026. It is 7:02 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and Madam City Clerk, if you can please take roll.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. If we could have the Pledge of Allegiance
Actually,
first.
before we take roll, Pardon me. If I can have Councilmember Goldstein please do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Please stand if you're able.
Thank you. Okay, Madam City Clerk, you please take roll.
Yes, thank you very much. Councilmember Andrews. Present. Councilmember Bonilla Jr.
Present.
Councilmember Goldstein.
Present.
Councilmember Roach.
Present.
Councilmember Sire.
Present.
Councilmember Cermeño. Mayor Salinas.
Present. Thank you. Next is public comment. Mr. City Attorney, if you can do closed session announcement, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The council convened at 5:30 to discuss property negotiations with the staff team. The council took no reportable action and adjourned at 6:47. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is public comment. This is reserved for anybody who would like to make a public comment that is on an item that is not on the agenda. I do have some public comment cards. And let me go to... Okay. First public comment is Veronica Bartavian.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Hello, my name is Veronica Bartavian, and I was a proud member of SEIU Local 1021 and was employed with the city for almost 2 years, but unfortunately was laid off from my position in the Education Services Department at the Hayward Public Library while on bereavement leave. I'm here today not only for myself, but also for those who are unable to attend because they're working or because they fear retaliation. The city must stop the layoffs. My former professor, Mark Salinas, instilled the importance of community in his students. He encouraged students to be involved, volunteer, and make a positive impact. Mark inspired me to pursue a career in serving the community. In my previous role at the library, I supported ESL grammar courses, citizenship programs, and adult literacy services. These free programs serve some of the most vulnerable members of our community. So I ask, how can our community thrive if resources that build opportunity and confidence are cut back entirely or scaled back due to layoffs? Where can residents safely practice their English skills and overcome language barriers? Where can aspiring citizens receive help for their naturalization tests? Where can adults improve their literacy skills? Who will fill the gaps for Hayward residents who have nowhere else to turn to? Budgets are moral documents, and the choices you make demonstrate your values. The harm these cuts do will not be offset by, or the harm these cuts will do cannot be offset by a bigger reserve. Profe, it's no surprise I'm speaking today. I was your student. I believed in the morals and principles you taught, and it pains me to wonder, where did that mentor go who taught those morals and values? I mean, did you really mean what you taught us? Because your words then and your actions now are not aligned. Our community is suffering due to the subpar decisions you are all making. And if you all truly care about the well-being of our community, the layoffs will stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Reina Escobedo. There you go.
Okay. Hello, my name is Reina Escobedo. Many of you know me as the face of Kirby, but I've worked at the Hayward Library for over 15 years now, long before we had a mobile outreach vehicle. I started in 2010 as a library page at the Weeks Branch Library, not knowing this job would become a way for me to give back to the community I was born and raised in. I was born at Kaiser Hospital in '87, and I lived across the street at the Lord Tennyson Apartments for 18 years. I went to Southgate Elementary, King Middle School, and Mount Eden High School. As a kid, I spent summers at the Weeks Branch Library doing summer reading challenges, mainly for the free personal pan pizzas. But I am a proud product of Hayward. This city has shaped me, and I've always been proud to be from here. But the recent actions by city management to cut frontline workers' positions without seriously considering other options first is unacceptable, and it has left me deeply disappointed and, to be honest, infuriated. Since Kirby launched in the fiscal year 21-22, we've served over 42,000 patrons and visited 23 of Hayward's schools. As the school district faces ongoing budget cuts and the loss of library staff and hours, the need for our bookmobile has never been greater. However, due to the mismanaged budget, we're now unable to continue serving these students, reach underserved populations, or support the city's vibrant community events. As a result, Kirby and our newly launched Techmobile Moby are currently out of service, sitting idle instead of serving the community. The impact of these cuts goes far beyond mobile outreach. As you know, the library is closed an additional day each week due to the staffing shortages. Spaces like the Digital Media Lab and Makerspace are closed regularly now and unavailable to the public. We lost 10 positions at the library, making it one of the hardest hit. Positions are frozen, hours reduced to minimum, and some of us, including myself, were demoted from full-time to part-time. I'm expected to cover more desk shifts for half of the salary and now come out of pocket for half of my medical benefits. As a single woman living on my own, I can no longer afford basic necessities. Excuse me. And I will have to find another job to supplement my income. None of this was my fault. Meanwhile, the library director and deputy director salaries combined exceed $500,000. When the director served as the acting city manager for 5 months, the library operated just fine with one director, and other library staff will attest to that. Cutting deputy director positions across the city could have saved every single frontline worker's job. Instead, the new city manager, with support of the city council and city management, chose to cut the positions that we actually need to keep these essential services running. Our library workers, our patrons, and the Hayward community are paying the price, while those responsible avoid accountability. This burden should not have fallen on anyone else other than those at fault, and it's a shame on all of you for allowing it to. Thank you.
Next speaker is Ron Collins.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, the caller.
Oh, it says S at the end.
Okay, good evening. I'm here tonight because working people in the city are paying the price for decisions they did not make. Public employees have been laid off. Library services have been reduced. Communities have lost access to essential resources. They did not have to happen. Let me be clear, the layoffs did not have to happen. On January 8th, 2026, SEIU Local 10-1, and I as the chief negotiator, presented the city with a comprehensive, responsible proposal to address the budget deficit without laying people off and without cutting core services. The proposal was submitted in good faith. It was detailed, it was realistic, it offered real solutions. And as of today, the city has not responded to that proposal. No engagement, no counter-proposal, no serious discussion. Meanwhile, workers were laid off and services were cut. That is not shared sacrifice. That is a choice that all of you made. There are alternatives. There are better options. The union put these on the table in that proposal. They were ignored. When layoffs are used as a budget tool instead of the last resort, it reflects priorities. And right now, the priority has not been protecting the community or workers. Excuse me. The employees who were laid off are not numbers. They are professionals who showed up for this city every day. Workers are assets to be developed, not costs to be cut. Libraries are not extras. They are a core public infrastructure. They are where students learn, where seniors stay connected, where job seekers find support, where families build community. When you cut libraries, you cut opportunity. When you lay off workers, you weaken the city. Balanced budgets matter. Being a leader is about how you balance that budget. Do you balance the budget off backs of workers, or do you balance them through responsible, forward-thinking choices? Tonight, I'm asking you to take responsibility for that choice. Bring those laid-off workers back to work. Restore those services for your community and your citizens. Solutions that do not rely on layoffs or concessions. Because budgets are not just financial documents, they're a statement of your values. And right now, this budget does not reflect the values of this city, that this city claims to care about: equality, opportunity, and community. Hayward deserves better, your workers deserve better, and your residents deserve better. I appreciate it, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker is Jorge Flores. No, do it again. Now you're good.
Good evening, everyone. Some of you already know who I am, since this is not my first time speaking in front of you, asking for help to solve our biggest problem as a business owners. Since 2022, we have been asking for solutions, and you told us many times that an ordinance was being prepared to deal and solve the problem. The ordinance came, and we have been waiting since then for our solutions. As of today, things far from getting better have gone a lot worse. The number of street vendors had multiplied, and our sales decreased, in my case, 45 to 50%. Therefore, I had been forced to decrease employees' hours and even let people go. People think the street vendors are people suffering to survive, and I understand and agree. That's the way. I agree that there are people in that situation, but I can assure you that there is not always the case. I personally know that there are few people owning a lot of these stands. Once I hear from one of my suppliers to say, one lady approached me to ask me if I would sell her merchandise for 20 locations that she has in Hayward. These people will hire people to take over their locations, paying them probably less than the minimum wage in cash. Obviously, they don't report any of the income to avoid taxes, and who knows, maybe they ask for government assistance since they don't report anything. Look, I don't have a problem with my people trying to survive. I came in similar situation. And like them, I also struggle. All I am asking for to the city is to treat us fairly. It is not fair that we had to comply with all the regulations and they don't. Maybe you should find them a place where they can sell their food, but not in front of our business. You may also think that selling on the street is part of our culture, and maybe it is, but it's one of the things that we are running from. Where I come from, people don't follow fair business rules, causing a lot of problems, and not only for the city, but also for the community. Some of these problems are like unhealthy food, dirty streets, no price control, a lot of violence, and they use all the funds from the city. And there's many more that I can, speak about. When I first came to this country, some of the very first thing I noticed were how the streets were clean, how secure I felt walking on the streets, and how confident I was buying food, because everybody will follow the rules and regulations. Unfortunately, lately all those has vanished. We are all asking today is for you to do your job, protect the people who are doing things right by following the rules and regulations. Lastly, I want to give you, each one of you, a report that we gave the city in 2022. I hope you can read it at this time and realize you could avoid all those problems if you would have done something back then. I mean, all I'm asking is, you told us you're going to do something in 2022. My question is, since then, what you have done? Is there anything you've done? Is there anything coming? Or?
We can't respond to you right now, but thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, next speaker is Luis Santos.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Luis Santos, business owner of Los Carnalitos on Whipple and Industrial. We have a food stand right next to us. And as Jorge said, I don't think it's fair. As a small businesses, I don't know, guys, if you guys don't realize how much we struggle. Prices going up, high rent, payroll. At the end of the day, we're struggling. And as Jorge said, we're doing the things right. We're paying our taxes on time. We are taking care of our people, our families. There are so many families involved. It's not only my family, my child's, like 10, 20 families per restaurant. So please, we are here to ask you kindly to do something, please. It's getting worse, and it is affecting us a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Luis Barba, and we do have a translator who is online. Yeah, and then okay, go ahead.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Luis Barba, soy dueño de la Casita Restaurant y primero quiero agradecerles por la oportunidad de hablar aquí. Mis compañeros ya hablaron sobre todos los problemas que tenemos y yo no quiero hablar tanto de eso más porque ustedes son personas que ya lo saben. Quiero hablar también como ciudadano preocupado que he vivido en esta hermosa ciudad por los últimos 25 años. Aquí nacieron mis hijos y que vean que este problema.
May I translate what Mr. Barba said?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes,
please, go
yes. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Luis Barba. I am the owner of La Casita Restaurant. I want to thank you, first of all, for the opportunity to speak. My colleagues have already spoken at length about the issue, but I also want to add my part. I have been a proud resident of the area for over 25 years. Adelante.
Una preocupación grande es, por ejemplo, yo no me animo a salir con mis hijos a andar en bicicleta porque las aceras están llenas de personas vendiendo comida. En la Mictlan, en la 22 y algo, hay literalmente una casa que tienen música en vivo, que tienen barra. Las personas toman alcohol de más, obviamente, y esas personas que les venden, pues no tienen el entrenamiento para saber cuándo dejar de venderles.
One of my greatest concerns is that I am unable to be on the sidewalk with my children on their bicycles. I say this because there's a house specifically around Mictlan, and it has a restaurant, a live bar, live music, and the people that serve alcohol there apparently don't have the right training to know when to stop.
Entiendo que son buenas personas, pero la mayoría de personas que venden comida nunca han tomado una clase para saber las reglas de salud. Y también es un problema de responsabilidad. ¿Qué va a
I
pasar?
understand that these are good people, but the majority of the people who are vending on the sidewalk ad hoc do not have the proper food training, and it's a concern of health and safety.
¿Qué va a pasar el día que se enfermen 50 personas? ¿La ciudad va a tomar responsabilidad por eso? ¿Qué va a
What will
pasar el día
happen? Perdón. What will happen when 50 people get sick? Will the city take responsibility for this?
Entiendo que la ciudad no puede controlar todo, pero el problema está bien evidente y si no se hace el trabajo, eventualmente van a explotar cilindros de gas. Alguien puede salir dañado.
I understand that the city can't control everything, but evidently there is issues. There are issues. What will happen if one of these days a gas cylinder explodes?
¿Qué va a pasar cuando una persona en silla de ruedas no pueda pasar por la banqueta porque está un restaurante en la banqueta y lo atropellen a un niño pequeño? La ciudad, no soy abogado, yo no sé si tengan responsabilidad legal, pero moralmente hay un problema y si no se hace nada, tenemos que pasar por una tragedia para que se tomen cartas en el asunto.
What will happen one day if, let's say, someone in a wheelchair can't get past or a child gets hit? This is a problem, and I am not a lawyer, nor do I know if there's a legal responsibility here, but we do have a moral responsibility. The city has a moral responsibility and should take matters into their hands.
En las redes sociales ahorita hay personas que están anunciando, somos dentistas en el garage en Hayward, porque la ciudad da la impresión de que vengan a Hayward y hagan lo que sea porque ahí no hay ley.
On social media, I've seen dentists, garage dentists, that proudly announce that they are Hayward garage dentists. What is going to happen? They think that they can come to this city and do whatever because there's no control.
En las esquinas hay niños pequeños de 8, 10, 11 años vendiendo tamales. Hay personas que me han dicho, amigos que trabajan en tienda, que van personas y compran muchísima carne con estampillas que les dan para comida porque ellos dicen, pues yo no trabajo, todo es efectivo. Compran su carne con lo que le roban al gobierno y luego vienen y en la ciudad pues no pagan renta, no pagan luz, tienen un negocio completo.
There are children that are 11, 12 years old selling tamales on the corners. There are people that buy a lot of meat with the food stamps that they're getting from the government dishonestly, and they're just selling it for cash.
Personalmente quiero agradecer al mayor Salinas, al cónsul Cermeño, a la cónsul Jolie. Yo sé que ellos están trabajando en esto, lo apoyan y lo entienden. Y al resto de los cónsul y a la Jennifer City Mayor les pido que vean esto como un problema que es de salud y de seguridad y de justicia social para todos. No solamente restaurantes peleando contra otra competencia, no tiene nada que ver con eso. Gracias.
These places do not pay rent. And I want to personally thank Mr. Mayor Salinas, Mr. Councilman Zermeño. There was a third name listed that I was unable to get. But I also want to place responsibility on the city manager, Ms. Jennifer, because this is a health and safety matter. Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jose, is it Huitron?
Buenas noches a todos. También ocupo un intérprete.
Si gusta, puede hablar como en 2 o 3 frases y luego pausa y luego yo interpreto.
Igual que los compañeros, tengo en la ciudad de Hayward desde el 2004 con un pequeño negocio. Gracias a Dios nos ha ido bien, pero los últimos años no hay negocio, no hay nada.
Like my colleagues, I come to speak on the issue, And like my colleagues, I have been a resident of Hayward and I've had my small business since 2004. But within the last years, that business has gone down.
Desgraciadamente hay muchos vendedores en la calle que la ciudad los apoya o no les hace nada. Yo no tengo nada en contra de ellos. Todos tenemos derecho a pelear por un pan. A eso venimos a este país, a trabajar. Pero desgraciadamente ellos no pagan impuestos.
Unfortunately, like my colleagues have said, there are many street vendors that the city either supports or doesn't do anything to stop. Unfortunately, they don't pay taxes. They don't pay fees.
Nosotros los pequeños comerciantes tenemos que seguir las reglas y yo lo entiendo y lo hago con gusto. Va el inspector de sanidad y revisa, todo revisa. Y a veces nos pregunta que tenemos que hacer modificaciones, tenemos que gastar $200, $300, $500 en hacer las modificaciones y a la otra gente no les dice nada. Entonces, ¿dónde estamos?
And I know that we all come here to follow our dreams and to make money. But we small business owners are suffering because we need to follow the rules, and I follow the rules with pleasure. For example, the health and safety inspector comes and we'll see something that we need to fix. It costs us $200, $300, $500, but these other vendors aren't doing this.
Entonces pienso yo que no es correcto que los pequeños negocios tengamos que sufrir y hacer todo lo correcto y esas personas no lo hagan. Yo no tengo nada en contra de ellos porque todos venimos a apoyarnos, pero ¿por qué no ponen sus negocios? ¿Por qué no ponen algo estable y no lo hacen?
And I have nothing against them. I think it's everyone's right. But it's not fair that us small business owners have to do the right thing when we have to follow the rules. Again, I'm not against them, but why don't they follow the rules? Why don't they lay down their own business?
Ahora, como decía el compañero que se acaba de retirar, si algo pasa grave, ¿quién se va a hacer responsable? ¿Quién se va a hacer responsable? ¿La ciudad de Hayward? Yo creo que no. Entonces, ¿para qué esperar a que eso pase? Otras ciudades como en Union City, como en Freeman, no pasa esto. Nada más pasa en Hayward. Y creo yo que ustedes que tienen el poder para poder solucionarlo, lo pueden hacer, pero no sé a qué tienen miedo.
Like my colleague spoke before, what is going to happen if something terrible happens? Will Hayward take responsibility? I don't think so. This problem is not the same. Union City and Fremont do not have these type of problems. You have the power to do something. I'm not sure what you are afraid of.
Ahora, yo en mi negocio tenía hasta 15 empleados, 16 empleados. Ahorita tengo 1. Yo tengo que trabajar 15 horas diarias, todos los días. Y no es correcto que yo tenga que trabajar y a veces no hay dinero para mí. Le tengo que pagar a mi empleado, a mi esposa que me ayuda a trabajar y yo como dueño no gano nada, pero sigo trabajando con gusto. ¿Por qué? Porque pienso que el día de mañana Dios nos va a dar licencia de salir adelante, pero ustedes nos tienen que ayudar.
I used to have, at one point, I had 15 or 16 employees. Now I have 1. I myself have to work over 15 hours a day, every single day, and only to pay for my employee, and I pay my wife who helps me, and I'm left with nothing. But I'm fine with it because I feel that one day God will help us through this. But you can also help us.
Por eso les agradezco a todos que nos puedan ayudar a los negocios pequeños a poder sobresalir y seguir adelante. Si no, el día de mañana vamos a tener que cerrar el negocio. ¿Y qué vamos a hacer? ¿Salir a la calle a vender? ¿Es lo que ustedes quieren?
I thank you for helping us small businesses because we need to survive. Please help us survive because we do not want to have to close our business and then end up having to sell on the streets.
Y muchas gracias y buenas noches a todos.
Thank you and good evening to all.
Our last speaker is Pepe.
Good evening to everybody. We're going to touch the same subject. They already talked. Got a couple of things up to mention. By the way, health inspection came to another other location, and they start checking us on the water. Rainstorm goes through one system, the kitchen water goes to another system. And I asked them, I showed them the video I showed you last night, and they say, oh, yeah, we already know about that, but you know what happened? What happened is that when we get there, they already left. Not true. The guy on A Street is 7 days a week from 10 to 5 or 6 around that time, but they don't even care to stop by. And by the way, those trucks, I don't know why the police haven't do anything about it. All those trucks, all those trailers, they don't have license plates. They should have license plates. And another thing, they say when somebody, a law enforcement, health department approached them, they said they don't have any ID. What do you mean they don't have an ID? They drive in a vehicle with a trailer on the back without license plates? I'm expecting something more. Everything else they already talked about what I was trying to say. It's just if you guys can look up on those trailers, like I said, they don't have any driver license. Maybe the people doesn't have any driver license and they drive into. That was it. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I did want to report that the city manager has, if she hasn't already, but we are arranging, I said this last time when you guys were here, don't want to seem like we're piling on yet another meeting. However, the city manager is arranging a meeting between staff, me, and all of you. We'll have it here at City Hall. And the objective of the meeting is to further listen to what you're experiencing. But secondly, what we're going to talk about is we want to share with all of you what we have been doing to respond to the vendors that are out there. I know it might seem that we're not doing anything. We are, staff is doing, we are doing things with mixed results. And so I just wanted to give you a report as to what we're doing and then continue the work together. We can't do this by ourselves. We're going to certainly continue working with all of you, and I know, sir. So the conversation continues, and so I appreciate that, Madam City Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to give the interpreter the opportunity to translate for those that are here.
Oh, yes, okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead, interpreter.
Ms. Quezada?
Ms. Quesada, are you still here?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
And Ms. Quesada, just let me, I could summarize it even shorter. Just, of course, thank them, but also the city manager will be arranging a meeting with all of them and with me and staff, and we're going to do two things. One, we are going to continue to listen to their experiences, and two, we are going to share with them what we have been doing as a city to respond to street vendors, and then we will continue our partnership.
Dice el alcalde que la gerenta de la ciudad con él organizarán unas reuniones en las cuales se platicará reuniones continuas donde se va a platicar lo que se ha hecho y lo que se va a hacer y las ideas que han surgido para estar más informados sobre el asunto.
Thank you. And I see that all your cards have phone numbers on here, so we will be calling you, and we will have a meeting really in short order. So please know that, and I will give this to the city clerk, and we will be calling. Okay.
Would you like me to also say that?
Yes, please.
También todas las tarjetas donde solicitaron la oportunidad de platicar o de hablar tienen su número telefónico. Entonces van a estar en contacto en un momento oportuno, pero no se tardará.
Okay. Okay, gracias por todo. And I will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is our consent calendar, which is our action items. Oh, but I know, yeah, I know that, but Councilmember Cermeño, I apologize. Did you want to say something?
Just to make sure that we all have a copy of the report or
yes.
the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all my colleagues. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, so I don't have anybody who wants to pull anything, and so...
Mr. Mayor, I believe we need city manager comments next.
Oh, yes, before we go to consent calendar, let's have city manager reports. Madam City Manager.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I have invites to share to two very special events this Saturday, February 7th at Hayward Public Library. We have Black History Month event. We in the Hayward community are invited to celebrate Black History Month as Dimensions Dance Theater presents a spectacular dance program at the atrium in the downtown library. Dimensions Dance Theater is widely recognized for their lively performances that reflect historical experiences and contemporary life of the African diaspora. The program, starting promptly at 11:30 a.m., will include choreography drawn from traditional West African dance, as well as jazz, hip-hop, and other current styles. And the free 45-minute performance will feature Dimension Dance Theater's youth artists, and all are welcome. We also have a pre-Valentine's Day book sale. So the Friends of the Hayward Library will be having a very special pre-Valentine's Day book sale from 10:30 to 3:30 p.m. at the bookstore in the downtown library. And books are also available for purchase at the Weeks branch whenever it is open. Hundreds of gently used and like new books are available for all ages, making your Valentine's Day both romantic, read, and eco-friendly. So books for all ages are available, priced starting at 50 cents, and you have to love that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next item is a presentation before we get to our action items. Our presentation is an update on federal and state advocacy and legislative developments for the 2025-2026 season. And I believe our city manager is going to kick this off. This is purely an informational item. And so, and I believe we have one person in the audience who is also going to be speaking. So
yeah, and we actually have two presentations for you tonight. One is from our federal partner and one is from our state, but we will start with our federal partner, and we have Vanessa Vergara, am I saying that right? Here in the chamber, so you can pronounce it for yourself. And then Dana de Beaumont is online as well, and they are from Capital Advocacy Partners. And then after that, we'll have the state one. So.
Hi there, Mayor Salinas. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
That's Dana.
Okay,
online.
Great. Mayor Salinas, council members, city staff, and the public, thank you for the opportunity tonight to present the work that Capital Advocacy Partners has collaborated with the City of Hayward. The City of Hayward we've collaborated together for over 10 years, and our work together has netted over $34 million in grant funding. We understand the budget constraints and that our goal is to ease your budget and support your community. With me today are Vanessa Vergara in the chamber. She's the client manager, and Aditi Datta Chowdhury, who's an associate who works with us. So I'll go ahead and let Vanessa do the presentation, and then we'll answer questions together if you would like.
Thank you, and it's good to see you, Dana.
Thank you, Dana, for the introduction. And again, thank you to the mayor and members of the council for having me tonight. It's a pleasure to be here and a good day to escape the winter cold that is from DC. So before I proceed with the presentation, I do just want to kindly note to the mayor and members of the council that the presentation that you may have on file in front of you is just slightly outdated. At the time that we submitted the presentation, DC activities, as you can imagine, have been ever changing and are very fluid. So My colleagues and myself wanted to ensure that we would be presenting the most updated information tonight for you. So my apologies for the outdated that you have on file. So moving on, I would like to begin with the federal landscape. So 2025 brought the longest federal shutdown in U.S. history at 43 days. It ended in November of last year, and at the time, a continuing resolution was enacted to fund most agencies at fiscal year 2025 levels through January. Prior to the expiration of that continuing resolution, which was the end of just this past January, the president had signed legislation that funded 6 appropriation bills, which included the Commerce, Justice, and Science Bill, Interior Bill, Agricultural Bill, Military Construction and Veteran Affairs Bill, Legislative Bill, and Energy and Water Bill. So that was 6 out of the 12 appropriation bills. And actually just recently, today, Congress actually approved a $1.2 trillion bipartisan funding package, which covers about 75% of federal discretionary funding and fully funds all federal agencies, all except one. So the ones that have been officially funded on top of those prior 6 that I mentioned include the Departments of Defense, Transportation, HUD, Labor, HHS, Education, State, Treasury, and Financial Services. So these agencies, as well as the prior 6 that I mentioned, are fully funded through September 30th, and that legislation has now been signed into law just hours ago by President Trump. The only outstanding federal agency that is not fully funded yet is the Department of Homeland Security. That funding was intentionally excluded from this bipartisan package and is currently being addressed through a short-term continuing resolution, which may extend funding for the agency through February 13th. So that gives Congress approximately 2 weeks to determine the funding levels for that specific agency. So the partial shutdown that was initially in place over the weekend has now been lifted, and so the only agency that is now outstanding is Department of Homeland Security. And I am also happy to announce that the city's community project from fiscal year 2026 was fully funded for $381,000, as it was fully funded in the Commerce, Justice, and Science Bill. So that is a recap of just the federal appropriations at this moment. I do also want to highlight 2 major federal programs with local implications for the city of Hayward. To begin, the Affordable Care Act subsidies. Congress has not yet extended those subsidies that
Vanessa,
expire.
can you talk a little more into the mic?
Oh, sorry.
I'm hearing from some people online that they can't.
My
hear.
apologies. Thank you.
Thank you.
One federal program right now that it does have some implications for the city of Hayward is the Affordable Care Act subsidies. Congress has not yet extended those subsidies that originally expired at the end of December in 2025. There are currently Senate negotiations that are ongoing, which include reviewing some draft legislative text that would extend the enrollment period for those subsidies through March, and would include some restrictions and guardrails that are being sought by Republicans. But at this moment, a bipartisan agreement remains elusive. So we have been just engaging with congressional office consistently to see if there's anything that we can do to support our congressional members, as we know that this will absolutely impact the residents of Alameda County. So more than 82,000 Alameda County residents rely on these subsidized plans, and projections indicate that over 5,000 individuals could lose coverage without an extension of these subsidies. And premiums, monthly premiums could rise by approximately $125 per month without an extension. The second federal program that I would just to briefly highlight is the SNAP program, also known as CalFresh here in the state of California. I do just want to assure that SNAP has already been fully funded through September 30th, which provides stability despite the budget uncertainty that occurred as a result of the shutdown last year. So all California recipients should have already received their delayed November benefits. So moving on, I do want to highlight 6 specific federal developments that have occurred in the past year that impact Hayward. The first relating to immigration enforcement. So last year, President Trump launched an executive order that essentially threatened funding cuts for sanctuary jurisdictions. When he announced that executive order, Department of Homeland Security and Department of Justice released a specific list of sanctuary cities that were essentially on the radar. This one, yes. On that list, I am happy to report that Hayward was not on that list, so that is great news. It just indicates that the city of Hayward is not on that radar. Another executive order that impacts the city of Hayward is an executive order that essentially directed federal agencies to increase scrutiny of federal funding being provided to any form of jurisdiction, nonprofit, local government, When this policy shift came into place, we absolutely coordinated with city staff immediately to notify them of this policy shift. And we also worked with staff to ensure that all federal funding that the city currently had was in compliance. And if it was not, then we assisted with them in getting that proper documentation in place to ensure grant compliance with the federal agency. Most recently, and I believe this was only 2 weeks ago, federal agencies were directed to review funding data. So starting in January, the administration directed federal agencies to review all federal funding flowing to 13 states, which include California. At this time, it is not an indication that they will freeze funding at all. It is only being framed as a data gathering exercise. And this is something that we have flagged for our congressional members so that it is on their radar, and we are working with them to ensure that we're getting the most updated information. Another one is Medicaid reform. So as a passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill last year, there have been approximately $1 trillion cuts to Medicaid, as well as an update to work requirements. As a result of these two, the cuts in funding and the update in work requirements, we expect local jurisdictions just across the nation to see a higher local demand for housing, health, and homelessness services as well. The DOGE initiative, as I'm sure everyone is aware, resulted in massive federal staffing cuts across federal agencies. So, our passion is to, secure federal funding for the city. So that is just a flag that, across federal agency staffs are being reduced significantly. And so what we can expect to see just on our end as the city, receives more federal funding is potentially just some delay in communication with federal staff. And last but not least, this last one that I have been working very closely with, specifically with Rick, who's amazing to work with, our understanding is that the city is very concerned regarding the Department of Housing and Urban Development's Continuum of Care program. So we understand that there's a new notice of funding opportunity that essentially jeopardizes funding for over 1,000 permanent supportive housing units countywide, which threatens stability for Hayward residents. I do just want to assure the council and the mayor that CAP is working very closely with congressional members to really highlight the impact that this changes to the program would have on Hayward residents, as well as Alameda County residents if they proceed with this new notice of funding opportunity that reduces the guaranteed funding for the county. So the bottom line is that federal cost cutting and policy shifts are increasing local administrative burden and service demand. CAP mitigates these risks through targeted advocacy, including formal letters, legislative tracking, and conducting over 60 meetings with congressional offices and federal agencies. So in terms of the federal priorities on Capital Advocacy Partners' end, we really do categorize them into 4 particular ones. The very first one is to protect the city's funding and ensure policy alignment. So this includes defending the city's sanctuary city status, making sure that the city is maintaining compliance across its federal grants, as well as safeguarding current and future federal funding. Our second priority is to pursue new funding opportunities. So this includes for Phase 2 of the SAC Center, airport modernization, homelessness, youth services, transportation, water, and behavioral health. I do just also want to insert here very quickly, as we've been asked to touch on this before, CAP is very aware that the city has a pending WIFIA application, which is seeking funding to fund a portion of the wastewater treatment plant. I do just want to provide actually an update to the mayor and members of the council. We have been coordinating very closely with Senator Padilla's office, and they actually provided an update today. So their understanding is that the project right now, as we know it, is in its last phase of consideration and was under review by the Office of Management and Budget. So they think that the extensive review is a result of the ensuring alignment with the executive orders. So that is what we think is delaying just the review of the application. And this is just across any entity that submitted an application. So they are just ensuring alignment with executive orders, and that is what we believe is taking some time. So we've been notifying staff of these changes, and we plan on working with them very closely the next few weeks to ensure that it gets moving. The third priority that we have here is to strengthen our federal relationships. So just in last year alone, in 2025, CAP has conducted over 60 staff meetings with Senators Padilla, Schiff, Butler, SWAWA committees, and agencies. CAP has participated in over 70 plus briefings, and we have drafted and sent over 40 legislative position letters to our congressional members. And we have also been supporting coordination with current grants that the city holds. So this includes doing some coordination for the city's fiscal year 2026 community project, which was ultimately funded. Our last priority here is to, again, support the city's active grant portfolio. So we are always providing post-award coordination for the city's funding. So this includes, for example, the community project funding for the St. Regis Rehab Center, Assistance to Firefighters Grant, and Prop 47 programs, which is administered by the California Board of State and Community Corrections, which is supporting the city's navigation center. Overall, CAP's ultimate goal is to keep the city's priorities visible in DC and well-positioned for federal investment. Okay. So in 2025 alone, CAP helped to secure funding that added to Hayward's budget, which includes here just quite a few, which I'm happy to go over right now. So this includes securing $15 million from WARDA funding for the Hayward Water Pollution Control Facility improvements, $1.78 million in the Assistance to Firefighters Grant, which will train and certify 19 firefighter EMTs as paramedics, $1.91 million from the Prop 47 grant, which supports the expansion of the Navigation Center to fund services for our homeless population here in Hayward, $1.11 million from the Alameda County Youth Development Grant, which supports mentoring and youth violence prevention in the community. Most recently, our community project funding, which will support the purchase of automatic license plate readers and situational awareness cameras, so $381,000 for that. And very, very most recently, CAP helped to secure for the Hayward Fire Department $215,000 from the CAL FIRE Wildfire Prevention Grant, which will reduce hazardous fuels in your homes, and evacuation routes, expand defensible space compliance, and overall just promote wildfire community preparedness. So since CAP's partnership began with the City of Hayward in 2014, CAP has helped secure over $34 million in grant funding for the City of Hayward, as my colleague Dana mentioned, which represents a return on investment of roughly $54 for every dollar spent on on federal advocacy and grant services. And that concludes my presentation. Again, on behalf of Capital Advocacy Partners, thank you to the mayor and members of the council for the opportunity to present today. CAP remains committed to supporting the city's priorities in 2026, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Andrews.
Thank you. You just heard a room full of street vendors discussion, and just want to know if there's any discussion about how it's impacting jurisdictions.
Yes, I'd be happy to get some more information on that, Councilmember Andrews. Just being here, it's always very informative to be hearing on the ground the challenges that the City of Hayward is facing. I do want to assure you that I outlined specific federal priorities that we're keeping in mind, but I do want to assure the council that we are always looking for anything that supports the City of Hayward in terms of funding, anything absolutely at all that can really help you and help the city. We understand that we are just in challenging times overall across the nation. But I'd be happy to report on that and give you some information, Councilmember Andrews.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is Dana. If I can add, street vending is a basically a local issue. As Vanessa said, we will do some research and see if it's being addressed at all at the federal or if there's been any legislation on that. I suspect it's not that prominent, but we'll definitely look at it, because there has been conversation about the cost of doing business and owning a brick and mortar store versus like a truck or a trailer.
So I think it is actually a state issue as well. I believe it's SB 972, and it might be another another Senate bill that was drafted. So it is a state Senate bill, I believe, and a Senate member bill. So I think we should just look at it, and you can even show them the tape of this meeting to just see what the issues we're having in our local jurisdiction, even though it's a state bill that has been passed.
Okay.
Councilmember Bonillo.
Thank you for this update. Just one quick question, going back to the WIFIA loan, because I know that that's really important to our city. Can you give us an example of alignment with executive orders and kind of what, just a pragmatic example of what that might look like?
Yes, and thank you, Councilmember Bonilla, for that. So Actually, those are the details that we are trying to coordinate with the senators specifically to see if they can obtain some information. This is just not, it's not surprising. This is something that's just happening across the federal grant landscape. So we're seeing it even when, with recurring grants that usually come out and programs that come out every year, or the ones that have always been consistently released. We are seeing just changes in guidelines stating that, if you were to be granted funding, you have to ensure that your project is aligned with current administration priorities as well as agency priorities. So this is not surprising to see. So we have seen it with, for example, the FEMA grant is a perfect example of this. It was originally, we submitted it under the Biden administration, and then when it was under review, it was a new administration that came into power. Department of Homeland Security and FEMA took a considerable amount of time to just review the application. We were in constant communication with folks from FEMA to ensure that the application was moving forward. And the number one thing that they told us that the delay of the application review itself was to ensure that they were aligning with current priorities and executive orders. I imagine there might be several that come into play here just based on the number of executive orders that we have seen come out. But this is just, I do want to flag that's not super alarming for us. It is a common practice that we're seeing across federal grants, but we will coordinate with Senator Padilla's office to see if we can get you that information more specifically.
Got it. Thank you
Yeah,
guys.
and if I could add that we are working with Padilla's office on this issue more so than with Congressman Swalwell or Senator Schiff's office because of the relationship differences with the administration. And we want to be sensitive to the administration. And the president every week is coming out with new executive orders. The first thing that we work to address with folks is addressing any reference to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And now the main thing is, and I listened to the president signing the spending bill today. One of the things that was discussed is their fraud investigation on federal funding in 13 states, coincidentally all Democratic states, where he indicated they're finding billions of dollars in fraud. And so this is a moving target, and we're just working to make sure that we work to address anything that might be in there or might have language that we need to adjust or answer questions to. But we're happy to forward a list of executive orders that are impactful. One other thing that may be happening next week that Senator Lindsey Graham mentioned at the press conference today is that they're going to be looking at sanctuary cities more and whether though there should be an ability of states or cities to prevent cooperation with federal agents. So we'll be reporting back on that too.
Thank you. That's my main interest was in that latter part. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Roach.
Thank you. So I know some of these, I think we're going to hear from Townsend also, right? Is that right? Yeah, okay, so we can ask our state questions, but I think some of these overlap, so maybe you can help me with it. One is, are you looking at anything over energy affordability? Because that's obviously a huge issue here in California, and I think, I don't know, other states, but is that something that you guys are looking at?
Yeah, I'm sorry, just to make sure I heard you right, Councilmember, you mean affordability issues?
Yeah, yeah, just because the price of energy is going up so high all over. Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely, and actually, well, out here in town, I've actually been meeting with the district offices of Senators Padilla, as well as Adam Schiff and Congressman Swalwell. So they actually have indicated to me that, and my apologies, I can't recall which member in particular, but one of them is sponsoring legislation and plans to introduce legislation in regards to affordability.
Mm-hmm.
So that is something I'm happy to forward to the council to see if that's something of interest to support. This is where position letters really come into play. But affordability, in terms of federal funding, that's something I can absolutely speak of. We mainly will expect to see that from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The tricky scenario that we have here is that Congress just wrapped up appropriations. So what we plan on doing is a deeper analysis of the federal budget to see what's coming down the line. And at CAP, one of our best practices is, if we know what's coming down the line, we coordinate very closely with city staff to start preparing potential competitive grant applications. We know affordability and addressing the homelessness issue as well as the city of Hayward is very, very top priority for the city. So we are always engaging with our congressional members, you know, to see if they can sponsor legislation, but also for us to be able to review, you know, what's coming down the line, especially with now this appropriations dilemma is now wrapped up. That is something that we plan on doing and coordinating very closely with city staff to see if there's any programs that are coming down the line that would support the city's affordability issues.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. And next time if you can sort of add that as something you're reporting on, I'd appreciate that because I think that would be continue to be an issue here. And then the other thing I was wondering about is I just have a couple more of that. So we've had a lot of discussion here about data centers, but this is a national issue. Data centers are a national issue. And do you foresee any funding availability or anything for people to research this issue, like what the sort of environmental impacts may be, you know, what the community impacts may be? Because I think it's coming so fast, and no one really has the funding or the time to be looking at this. Are you tracking that on your end?
This is Dana. I can talk about that. I have been following that data center development because it's big, and I believe Hayward has is going to or has data centers already. I don't foresee this administration looking at the impact of data centers and the energy and the use and all of that. What I do think may happen is that, you know, states, the League of Cities, the U.S. Conference of Mayors and others, that may be a broader issue that is examined. There are now whole podcasts on data centers. And so I see data centers really coming to the forefront because of the great energy consumption that they do. But I don't foresee this administration, there may be legislation introduced on this and we'll look at that. But I don't see this administration doing something that really addresses data centers right now.
Okay. Yeah, that's helpful. I mean, I think it will be something we'll continue to be interested in.
Absolutely.
So that would be great to know more about. And then the last one is around cyber fraud. So this is a huge issue for seniors, and it's happening all over the country. People are losing millions of dollars on this. Is there any legislation coming forward to help local legal agencies or nonprofits to help seniors, you know, in the awareness factor of this and helping them, you know, recover? Because to recover some of these funds is a really cost intensive cyber analysis or, you know, sort of forensic analysis. And there has been some successes, but not everyone has access to that.
Right, yes, and Councilmember Roche, I'm happy to look into this further in terms of funding for that. I would anticipate, just based on experience, and happy to let my colleague Dana here chime in if she has anything, but I believe on the state side, we can expect to see that sort of funding to come out to provide that support for that particular matter. Cybersecurity is, cybersecurity in general, and you know, in terms of cyber fraud, is a bipartisan issue. So we expect to see some programs coming down the line in terms of supporting that specific matter. But again, I'm happy to look into that further, Councilmember.
Great, those are my questions. Thank you.
Yeah, and the programs that have been existing really are helping more. They funded a lot of water districts and special service districts. The city did apply for a cybersecurity grant, and it was, I think, only 2 cities in all of California got it. It was these others. The city of Hayward is in a very good position compared to most jurisdictions in terms of what you're doing and your vision for cybersecurity and protecting the systems. But helping seniors and such is a really good idea. And definitely something that we should dig into because it really impacts those vulnerable populations.
Thank you. Councilmember Zermeño.
Mayor, thank you, and Vanessa, thank you very much. Good report. Also, your partner over in TV land or in telephone land. Pleased to hear that this mid-sized city is under the sanctuary city radar. That's good news, great news. Any idea why that we just don't have we're not famous? You know, do you know?
Yeah, Go ahead, Dana.
No, from the beginning when for years we've talked about this, the sanctuary city, and one of the things that your leadership and team there has done is we talk about protecting our residents and keeping them safe. But one of the things that we do as well is try to come, with our federal agencies and decision makers a little bit under the radar. We'll let other people do some of the talking, and we'll be supportive, but yet not very vibrant with our positions. And sometimes less is more. And so that's part of the reason. And folks like the police department have done a really good job of communicating exactly and only what they need to, and making sure that other folks kind of the ICE and others stay away as much as we can.
And thank you for the report. Good news.
Thank you. I don't have any more speakers here on council, but Ms. Vergara, I wanted to say thank you, and Dana, it's always good to see you. The last time I was in DC, I think it was last summer with ACTC, in fact, and to navigate Washington, relationships are important, and your organization, your firm, was able to. Actually, it was last January. I think it was the January.
Yeah, 2024.
Yeah, it was January, and so I was there for a conference, but I broke away, and you guys ushered me around the Capitol, and relationships are important. And I think the inroads the reputation you have in the Capitol was very good. So I really appreciate that. And I'm sure that the city is in good hands with you guys. So thank you very much for your work, and thank you very much for your report.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mayor and members of the council. Have a wonderful night. Please, if there's anything else that we could provide for you, we're in great contact with City Manager Ott, so we'd be happy to answer any other questions that may arise after tonight. But thank you.
And our Public Works Director is back there, so make sure we get that WIFIA grant.
Yes, will do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then next we have our state.
Yeah, next we have our state legislative partners, and that's Townsend Public Affairs. And we have Carly Shelby here online tonight who's going to present for us.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Carlin Shelby with Townsend Public Affairs, based out of our Sacramento office. I want to start this by saying that I apologize sincerely for not being able to be there in person. I have been hit by a very nasty bout of a flu bug that has been going around, and I'm not fully recovered at this moment. But our team has been working with your guys' staff to find time to come down to Hayward, or over rather, and discuss some of our priorities and make sure that we're all aligned on bringing dollars back into the community through the state budget process, and through the grant funding efforts that we're pursuing actively. So getting into our presentation, and I just want to confirm that you guys have it on your end, right? Or should I share mine?
You could go ahead and
Perfect.
share.
Okay. Thank you so much. Great. So just as a little bit of background with me, because I may be a new face to some of you all, Carlin Shelby, I've been with the firm for over 5 years now. Previous to that, I actually worked with the League of California Cities. So you guys may remember me in my role over at the lobbying and legislative team over there. But I work with Nico DeLuca, who I'm sure you guys all know, our vice president, and Alex Gibbs, who's our grants director, and we provide state legislative advocacy services and grant funding and funding advocacy services to the city. So getting into the next slide, the high-level overview of our presentation, we're going to get into some key state legislative items for 2026. go into a high-level budget update, and then get into an overview of some of our funding efforts that are continuing for the city. So next slide, please. So key legislative items for 2026, we're already gearing up for a very busy year. Want to start with transportation safety reforms, and this is a really big deal for the legislature right now. These are items ranging from e-bikes and some of these quasi-moped devices that are really hitting the streets and are in some of our not only our roads, but our trails, our bike paths, and our sidewalks. And so the legislature is looking at e-bike safety reforms, DUI and drunk driving safety reforms. They're looking at expanding certain pilot programs related to automated speed enforcement and traffic enforcement operations, which can bring revenue and safety measures back to the city. So that will be kicking off in a major way, and we hope to be active there. In addition, we have affordable housing and homelessness funding stability. We understand that the city operates a navigation center. A lot of the funding that keeps that center moving and operating really hinges on the way that the state provides funding through things like the HAP program and then discretionary funds. So as we're looking out into kind of the instability in the federal world with, some of the changes to the continuum of care funding system streams, we really want to stabilize that by pushing for the HAP program to be stabilized and maybe even opening that up to cities that are not part of the Big 13 or the counties or the COCs, cities like Hayward that are kind of what we call big city adjacent that still deal with all of these issues and need those funding streams that can't necessarily tap into them directly. In addition to that, we have illegal dumping prevention and mitigation. This is really turning into a hot topic this year because we understand that, especially throughout the Bay Area, illegal dumping is just a major issue, and it's really hard to prevent and prosecute those that are engaging in this. So finding creative strategies for that is something that we're working on actively with our legislative delegation and with members of the Bay Area Caucus. As I'm sure you guys all remember last year, Senate Bill 79 by Senator Wiener, which was a kind of statewide mandate related to transit-oriented development, passed the legislature. Now we're already looking at cleaning it up. And a lot of that really has to do with how local agencies are able to effectively implement the provisions of this bill. We know that there's a lack of clear guidance on which agencies the MPO, is it ABAG, is it our transit systems that are supposed to provide us these guidance in order to create these alternative plan distinctions. So this is something that we're already looking at cleaning up this year. I will say that the state legislative process is a very iterative one. So it's likely that we'll continue to see reforms in this. And then, of course, we have statewide bond proposals. As you guys all know, we saw the climate bond and the school facilities bond pass off of the last ballot. Now we're looking at a statewide housing bond totaling approximately $10 billion. That has the blessing of the governor and from other legislative leaders and stakeholders. So we're really eager to see those dollars hit the streets and contribute to affordable housing development within the communities to, provide affordable housing and also relieve you of, some of the RENA obligations that come with the need for more housing. And of course, we have new leadership and administration changes. Senator Monique Limon, who hails from the Santa Barbara area, has taken over as the Senate Pro Tem. She has a whole new suite of leaders and committee chairs. And then in addition to that, we will see the last year of Governor Newsom. And we have so many new candidates that seem to be entering this race for governor every day, it seems. But that will really be interesting to see how that shakes out and how that impacts local agencies throughout the state, but also Hayward and how we're looking at funding local agency issues looking forward. Next slide, please. So getting into a state budget update, The governor's budget predicts a $2.9 billion deficit. This is a lot smaller than the $18 billion deficit that was projected by the Legislative Analyst's Office, which is great for us in the sense that, we're solving for a much smaller deficit issue. A lot of this has to do with the way in which our markets have performed, especially with the AI boom. This time last year, we were predicting closing a $20 to $30 billion deficit gap. So this really does position us well for state budget earmarks and discretionary grant funds, or discretionary funds and grant funding programs that should be funded through this budget process. As expected, there's no new funding for housing and homelessness dollars. This is a typical process that the governor likes to follow. It's a negotiation tool. Hopefully, by the time that we're done with our advocacy strategy, we will have that $1 billion in HAP that can go to items like the Navigation Center and to other housing programs, but the work continues. On Proposition 4, which was the $10 billion climate bond, we're seeing those dollars hit the streets. We've actually really been working closely with your guys' city staff to position us for funding within the statewide parks program, which is going to see the biggest influx of funding there. We're really targeting the La Vista Park project in that arena. And those awards range anywhere from $10 to $11 billion in this $1 million in this cycle per project. In addition to that, we have local exposure to federal cost shifts. There's been a lot of federal funding changes that will impact our state budget. And so what we're looking toward in this state budget is minimizing those local exposures by moving and balancing things within our own budget system. Early action budget items are anticipated. It did include the Bay Area Transit Operations Loan totaling $750 million. That agreement was effectuated and should be transferred over to our transit agencies. And then, of course, we will have that Senate Bill 63 5-county Bay Area transit tax measure coming onto the ballot here to, kind of operate as a bridge with this loan. And then, of course, negotiations and budget committees will follow. Our next major milestone is the May revision, which is reflective of our April tax receipts. And that will give us a better picture of what our new deficit number is, if it's closed, and how willing the legislature and budget chairs are in providing discretionary funds through the earmark process that we can utilize. And so getting into the next slide. This is just an update of kind of our partnership over the years and some of our grant funding and general funding updates. So we've been working with the city for 16 years at this point. It's been an incredible partnership, and we're looking forward to more successes. This has resulted in over $14 million secured through the budget processes, through grant funding processes. And then, of course, we have strategic engagement on over 150 pieces of legislation. Nicolo and I have kind of poured through all of the bills that we've tracked, all of our letters over the years. And it's been everything from homelessness funding to housing streamlining to insurance reform measures. So, we're really looking forward to this upcoming year and definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts about priorities. Definitely, thinking about the comments that were made at the beginning of this meeting and how we can be helpful through those processes. So we're excited to get to work this year. And then that kind of leads me into my next slide, my final slide. And this is just about our strategic engagement with you all. So we have regular check-ins with the city's team and staff. We provide monthly grant memos, monthly overviews of legislative updates. And then we have ongoing engagement on items like homelessness funding stability, affordable housing, and community reinvestment to ensure that those dollars are coming back to the community and that our legislators are very well aware of some of the struggles that we may face along with many other local jurisdictions throughout the state. We're definitely not alone in that. As I said, we provide consistent reports and updates on policy issues. We're working on our earmark strategy. We would love to have you all in Sacramento for an advocacy trip if that works for schedules. I think that there's a lot of relationship development, especially with so many new legislators in leadership positions, and really highlighting the issues that happen within Hayward and also the successes. I mean, that's really we have a story to tell, and telling that through strategic engagement by getting face to face with our legislators is always a really effective tool with that. And with that, that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions, and it's a pleasure having your guys' time and attention tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Councilmember Roach.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Carlin, right. Thanks for all the work that Townsend's doing. It sounds like you heard the earlier conversation, so I just want to make sure, I'm just going to tap on them really quick so that you're watching. I'm really interested in us following anything to do with energy affordability, because that's something really affecting our community members. And then anything on the street vendors, I really think it's going to take the state legislation to be changed to be able to help us affect where the place part of our local ordinance. We're not allowed to legislate on where people can put these street vendors. The state's going to have to do that. So if you can continue to look at that, and we can, whatever we need to help you to do that, that sort of advocacy. And then the last one was, let's see, on the data center work, just that you're sort of watching what's happening in the state level to help local jurisdictions, deal with what the effects might be of data centers. Thank you.
No question?
Unless you want to comment on, I guess the one specific
I was ready for a question,
Thank you.
but
Yeah,
no, it's okay.
I guess the one specific question is there any movement on the vendor thing? Because we're not the only city dealing with this, obviously, and it's going to take state movement for us to then be able to move our local ordinances. So maybe that's one question you can answer.
Yeah, and thank you. That's a really pertinent question at this time. I will say that you guys are not alone at all. And when Senate Bill 946, which passed in 2018, and then Senate Bill 972, which you mentioned, which took effect in 2023, passed and really kind of overhauled the permitting and enforcement systems related to the regulation of sidewalk, street vending, and cottage food operations. I think that it was such a tidal wave in a certain direction that the legislature at that time didn't have an appetite for reforming that. Now, a couple of years later, when we're looking at so many jurisdictions that are dealing with the same issues, I think that there's more of an opportunity for us to harness that through coalition work and through outreach, and pursue some of these reforms. And I think that what I would be interested in learning is where we can make a difference. Is it additional resources so that the county and other health and safety inspectors can deploy more resources to have more frequent checks? Is it completely overhauling Senate Bill 972? I think that there's a conversation to be had. We have many local jurisdictions that we deal with that have these issues, and I would love to kind of unite us all and facilitate a conversation. So I agree there needs to be work done. We've not seen additional legislation crop up quite yet within this legislative session, but that's not to say that there can't be.
Yeah, well, maybe you can be part of the discussion that we heard the mayor's going to have with the city staff about this, because I think that, local, restaurant owners need to know what the state's impact is on this, what you can do. And everything you said, yes, all of it, yes, because I think we can look at all of it from all those angles. But I think the biggest part that the state legislation needs to fix is place, where you can put street vendors. And because that state law says that cities cannot legislate around that's the piece specifically, but definitely funding to help local jurisdictions, like the county, to increase enforcement over the health code stuff, because all the things we heard about tonight were health code violations. That is a county jurisdiction, and if the county doesn't have the resources they need to enforce those permits, then we definitely need to help them get funding for that. So thank you. And then the other one, I do have a question that I brought up earlier about the cyber funding, the cyber fraud. And I know it may sound obscure up here to some people, but I do work in the legal aid with seniors area. And this is a really big deal. Seniors are losing millions of dollars in the state. And that is something I would like you to see if you could follow that. I know it's a state, I think, Attorney General thing. And so that's something I would be interested in if anything is happening on that front.
Thank you. Councilmember Andrews.
Yes, thank you. I think I jumped the gun regarding street vendors just because it was so fresh in my mind. So thank you for bringing it for the state. And wanted to know what is the status of restorative justice reparations work. I know there was a lot of research, there was panels, there was all kinds of things happening, and wanted to see where are we at with that work in the state of California.
Yeah, absolutely. So the state completed a reparations task force in 2023 is when the report was released. And subsequent to that, there were a number of bills introduced by the California Legislative Black Caucus during the 2024-2025 legislative cycle. And a lot of those were varying in terms of what they sought to accomplish. We had measures by Senator Bradford that sought, reparations on a statewide level. We had, measures by then Assemblymember Joan Sawyer that was would institute a state apology for slavery and its lasting harms. We know that there's a framework to verify lineage eligibility and a number of those items. There were some speed bumps that a lot of those bills hit, and a lot of it really had to do with the cash position that the state was in order to effectively provide cash reparations through a program if it were adopted. However, we know that the California Legislative Black Caucus is still very interested in pursuing a number of those proposals looking forward. And we still have not seen their package officially introduced this legislative session, but that should come in the next couple weeks. So what we can do is follow up with an overview of that when it comes out, and then we can engage you and staff on how best to approach advocacy in that realm.
Thank you. And then are there any bills or legislation in regards to human trafficking, as it's human trafficking is prevalent in Alameda County particularly, and want to see if there's any movement there. And then we did have to, due to budget, we did have to reduce our mental health response as it relates to PD response, and wanted to see if we are advocating for mental health and homelessness services and funding for that. Are we also balancing how we respond in case of an emergency if it is a mental health response or if someone needs more support if they're experiencing homelessness for a particular reason?
Yes, absolutely. These are great questions. I will say that there were a number of human trafficking related bills that passed last legislative session. There was Assembly Bill 379, which was kind of a hot ticket bill that had a lot of press, but it would have established a new misdemeanor for loitering with the intent to purchase commercial sex, and imposes additional fines. And with those fines, it would have created a survivor support fund with those fines deposited into it in order to provide additional resources to those people that are trafficked and find themselves in unsafe situations. This legislative session, what we've seen are a few bills related to creating a state task force on victim services, preventing human trafficking through other budgetary means. So kind of depending on how our budget works out and how we continue this upswing with our AI boom, hopefully we'll see more resources dedicated into that realm. And then the same goes for the mental health supports. I will say that there is more of a push from this legislature to decouple traditional policing with mental health services so that both our peace officers and our mental health supportive personnel can, cooperate in order to provide services that are better tailored to those that are experiencing those mental health crises. So we'll hopefully see additional resources dedicated there, but it's great to know that this is a priority and that's something that we'll continue to watch.
Thank you.
Councilmember Syra.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation and the work that you're doing at the state level. I think I was just curious to hear updates on renter protections at the state level. I know that State Senator Wahab had put forward potential amendments to Costa-Hawkins. It narrowly was defeated, but I was curious about the state of both that legislation potentially coming back, as well as the current statewide rent control that's in place, and whether or not there's work to reform that piece of legislation.
Right. That's an excellent question. And I will say that, the senator is such a champion on rental protection reforms. So I understand that, that's probably going to be a priority of hers looking into this upcoming legislative session. But we'll definitely circle in with her office and with our legislative delegation to determine kind of how that process will unfold. Obviously, we've seen legislative attempts. We've seen attempts at the statewide ballot box to, provide tenant protection resources and reform Costa-Hawkins that were unsuccessful. But we understand that the stakeholder groups that have been pushing that are still very motivated to continue that work. So what we can do is provide you with an overview of those items that are ultimately introduced that are kind of aligned with this topic and chart out a path for advocacy.
Okay, got it. And then this is not necessarily related to our jurisdiction, but impacts our jurisdiction. Both the CSU system as well as our school district are struggling with major financial shortfalls similar to the city itself. And I guess I'm curious, are you involved in those realms, or are you collaborating with other advocates there too? Because that impacts the quality of education for the students in our district, or the amount of students that we have in our city.
Absolutely. I mean, we don't directly represent CSUs in that realm, but we absolutely do collaborate with them to provide as much support as we can through targeted support from neighboring jurisdictions to advocate for more funding and decrease some of their structural budget pressures. But we do know that that's an issue up and down the state. What we can do, if feasible, is work with our neighboring CSU and universities and provide letters of support when needed for some of their grant funding and other funding related items that they're seeking, and just kind of be that partner when they need it. So as much as we can open that line of communication with them, I think that is all the better for all of us working together in that direction.
Great, thank you. And not speaking on behalf of the council, but just for myself, I am supportive of I believe it's called the billionaire's tax being put forward by 1021. And so I don't know what lobbying you're doing, if any, around that, but that's a major way for us to address the deficits that many of our government agencies are facing, is through the redistribution of that wealth in one of the largest economies in the world.
Thank you. Okay. I don't see any more questions. Ms. Shelby, thank you very much for your report. And, as they say, keep fighting for us in Sacramento.
Will do. Thank you all.
Thank you. Anything else? No? Okay. Okay. Thank you. I'd like to now move on to our consent calendar. And I did not get any requests to pull anything, so I'll entertain a motion. Actually, before I get a motion, I'd like to open up for public comment. Let's see. I don't have any cards. There are no hands raised online, so I will close public comment, come back to the dais, and hold on a second. Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Syrup, seconded by Councilmember Goldstein. Madam City Clerk, if you can take roll. And motion passes. Thank you. Next is our legislative business. This is the Residential Rent Stabilization and Tenant Protection Ordinance, introduction of an ordinance amending Chapter 12, Article 1 of the Hayward Municipal Code to extend the arbitration decision deadlines and include a cost recovery process consistent with other housing program fees. And I believe our Development Services Manager, Director Bowser, is going to launch us, and I see Mr. Patel sitting next to her. So we're about to talk about rental housing.
Yes, we are. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's my pleasure to be here, and I am going to turn it over to Ayush Patel, who will be present this tonight's item. Thank you.
Good evening. So today this will be a short presentation regarding some minor administrative amendments that staff is proposing for the RRSO. So just to give a little bit of a background, you've seen this slide before, but during our rent registry presentation, but there's two types of units under the RRSO. There's the covered rental units and the non-covered rental units. The covered rental units are the ones that are subject to the rent cap, as well as our rent review program, which consists of mediation and arbitration. However, all units are protected under just cause and other anti-retaliation protection provisions. So throughout our time administering the ordinance, we've identified two deficiencies that we can easily implement, as well as some proposed amendments to fix those. So the first is that we have a 20-day arbitration decision deadline. So basically what happens is when a petitioner files a petition, it goes through a rent review program, and at the end, an arbitrator has to issue a decision. They have right now 20 days to render this decision, and they've given feedback that this time frame is too short. We've looked at other jurisdictions, and they've indicated that they have a 30-day window. So moving this to 30 days would be better aligned with other jurisdictions, and it would also give the arbitrators more time to render some of these lengthy provisions. Next, we've noticed that our fee collection does not necessarily equate to cost recovery. So in fiscal year 25, for our annual fees, we collected about $900,000. However, we were short about $160,000. Currently, we have a late billing process in which people who do not make payment for the original invoice are charged a 50% fee on top of the original invoice. However, that process is not efficient, and it's not aligned with our other adjacent program, the residential rental inspection program. So that program goes ahead and assesses properties with outstanding fees, and now that we've kind of merged our billing process, we would like to have a consistent consistent collection process, which involves making sure that the RSO fees are also assessed if they remain delinquent. So that really just brings us to our recommendation, which is that the council introduces an ordinance extending the arbitration decision deadline and including a cost recovery process that's consistent with the process used for the RIP. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your wonderful, brief, and succinct presentation. I am absolutely positive that the council will equally have very brief comments. Councilmember Syrup.
Thank you, Mayor. If we don't recover costs, what budget pays for it?
My understanding is that right now we have a fund balance, so we can draw down from the fund balance, but if that goes negative, my understanding is that the council would need to authorize a loan from another fund, such as a general fund, in order to subsidize the program.
Okay, that's what I was afraid of. And the fee that we're currently charging, does that raise automatically according to CPI, just so that we can keep pace with the cost of administering this program?
It does not. It's determined through the master fee schedule process.
But what I would add is that is also something that the city is undertaking, is re-looking at the master fee schedule, and I believe that is one consideration, is looking at ways that we can incrementally increase fees over time. So while it currently isn't that way, there are parallel processes that may address that.
Okay, great. Yeah, not just with this fee in particular, but I think in general, it's just so we're not having to re-entertain the question every time. If we just need to keep pace with the cost of providing or provisioning services, makes sense to me. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. See no more questions. I'll open up for public comment. Let me see if there's any. I don't have any cards, and I don't see any. I don't see any comments online, so I'll close public comment, and I will turn to my colleague, Mayor Pro Tem Syrup, who serves with me on the Housing Task Force.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for putting together this legislation. I think this is a great example of just nimble and adaptive policy writing. This is a win-win in my mind for us to help prevent homelessness in our city, for us to protect our general fund, and I'm just happy that we're able to put this on the table today so quickly and make those tweaks. I think that as a general practice, I mean, even around the issue with street vending that we heard tonight, as a city, we're trying to wrestle with, if we're putting some kind of legislation into place, how do we effectively enforce it? How do we make sure it's having its intended effect? And so as we work to address the problem that we heard from some of our public commenters tonight, I think this is how we're doing that as it relates to folks not keeping up with our red stabilization ordinance. I really appreciate the work and thought that's went into this rather elegant and simple amendment, and I'm happy to move the item.
Thank you. Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Syrup, seconded by Council Member Roach. And I don't see any more questions or comments, so I will close this. And Madam City Clerk, we can vote.
Councilmember Andrews, will that be a yes or no? Yes, okay, I'll do it from here. Thank you.
Okay, and a motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to council reports and/or announcements. Seeing none, there are no council referrals. Ladies and gentlemen, meeting adjourned.
Recording.